Okay, so if you're gearing up for the IELTS speaking test, you know that feeling, right? That intense pressure? We hear it all the time. Focus on vocabulary, focus on grammar. But what if the real secret to hitting that band 9 score is something totally different? Well, today we're going to crack that code. So, what is this big secret? I mean, you've probably spent hours, right? Poring over vocab lists, drilling grammar rules. But then what happens? The examiner asks a pretty simple question and poof, your mind just goes completely blank. Ever been there? That moment where you just freeze up? No idea how to even start? Trust me, you are so not alone. Here's the thing. It turns out the biggest hurdle for most of us isn't even about not knowing enough English. Nope. It's about organizing that chaos in your head, right? Getting your thoughts in order quickly when you're under pressure. And the key to that? It's simple. Structure. Structure is everything. And that's exactly why we're going to build something I like to call the speaking toolkit. Seriously, I want you to think of these 5 structures as your secret weapon. They are your ready-to-go frameworks that you can whip out for pretty much any question. And they're going to help you sound more fluent, more logical, and this is the big one, way more confident. All right, let's open this toolkit up and get started with the absolute essentials. These first 2 frameworks, they're at your foundation. Super easy to learn, and you won't believe how effective they are. First one up is a classic, and it's super easy to remember. The Oreo method. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. But nope, it's not about the cookie. But trust me, it's just as satisfying when you get it right. Okay, the Oreo method is just beautifully simple. First, the O, you state your opinion. Just say what you think, straight up. Then R, you give a reason. Why do you think that? Next, E, give a specific example. This is where you bring it to life. And finally, the second O, you wrap it up with the outcome or the result. See? Opinion, reason, example, outcome. It creates this perfectly packaged, complete answer every single time. Let's put it to the test. Imagine the examiner asks, do you like reading books? Using Oreo, your answer could sound like this. I really enjoy reading books. That's your opinion, because they allow me to learn new things. There's your reason. For example, I recently read a history book. That's the example. As a result, it broadened my understanding of the world. And boom, the outcome. You see how smooth that is? Every part just flows right into the next. That is the kind of clear, logical answer that examiners just love to hear. Okay, tool number 2 in our kit is the past, present, future structure. And let me tell you, this one is an absolute lifesaver, especially for those questions about your life, your experiences, or how things have changed. You know, the kind of stuff they ask all the time in parts 1 and 2. The logic? It's dead simple. It's just a timeline. You talk about how things used to be in the past, then you talk about how they are right now, in the present, and then you finish up with your hopes or plans for the future. It basically creates this neat little mini-story, which is super easy for the examiner to follow along with. So let's try it out with, say, do you like traveling? You could say something like, well, in the past, I didn't travel much because of my studies. Then, nowadays, I try to travel whenever I get the opportunity. And you finish with, in the future, I hope to explore many international destinations. See? It's so clear, it's comprehensive, and, bonus, it naturally shows off that you can handle different verb tenses without even trying. It's brilliant. Okay, ready to level up? Let's move on to Toolkit 2. These next couple of structures are designed for those trickier discussion questions. You know, the ones in part 3 where you really have to be a bit more analytical. So, first up in this section, the problem, cause, and solution structure. This one is your best friend when an examiner throws you a question about some kind of societal issue. Using this framework instantly shows them, hey, I can think about this critically. I can think systematically. It's a super logical 3-step process. First, you identify the problem. What is the actual issue we're talking about? Then you dig a bit deeper and look at the cause. You know, why is this happening? What's the root of it? And finally, you offer up a thoughtful solution. It's a fantastic way to show off some really high-level thinking. So if they ask you about managing stress in modern life, check this out. I'd say a significant problem a lot of people face is excessive stress. Then, I believe this is mainly caused by increasingly demanding work schedules. And to finish, a possible solution would be for companies to promote a better work-life balance. See that? Problem, cause, solution. The logic just flows perfectly. All right, our 4th tool is the compare and contrast structure. This is your absolute go-to for any question that asks you to look at 2 different things and weigh them against each other. The whole idea here is to show a really balanced view. So you might start by comparing the two things, right? Then you talk about an advantage of one side and then a disadvantage of the other. But here's the most important part. You have to finish by giving your own informed opinion. That's what really elevates your answer. It shows the examiner you can take in all that information and come to your own conclusion. Okay, let's take online versus traditional education. A great balanced answer would touch on the big advantage of online learning, right? Flexibility. But you'd also have to mention a drawback, like the lack of direct face-to-face interaction. And then you'd wrap it all up with your own opinion. Something like, personally, I believe a hybrid model that combines both would probably be the most effective. That is exactly the kind of thoughtful, well-rounded answer that gets you the high scores. And now for the final tool in our toolkit. This one is all about making you sound less like you're taking a test and more like you're just having a natural, fluent conversation. This is the general to personal structure, and it is absolutely fantastic because it lets you start with a big general idea, and then you bring it right down to your own life. It just makes your answers so much more personal and engaging. So the flow is really, really effective. You start with a general idea. Then, maybe a quick explanation of what that means. And finally, you nail it by connecting it to a real personal experience. This is great because it shows the examiner you can handle both those big, abstract ideas and also talk about concrete stuff from your own life. Just listen to how this works for a question about health. You could start really broad, right? Exercise plays a crucial role in maintaining good health. That's your general idea. Then you bring it home. And from my personal experience, regular exercise has significantly boosted my energy and productivity. That personal touch, it just makes your answer feel so much more authentic, so much more memorable. So there you have it, 5 incredibly powerful tools for your speaking toolkit. But before we finish, let's just quickly recap why this whole approach is such a game changer for hitting that band 9. Look, the power of structure is just undeniable. When you have one of these frameworks ready to go, you can speak for longer and way more fluently, simply because you always know what you're going to say next. Your answers sound clear, they sound logical, which, by the way, is exactly what they're looking for in the fluency and coherence part of the score. And maybe the best part of all, you can finally say goodbye to those long, awkward, stressful pauses that really hurt your score. So you have the toolkit now. The secret is officially out. The only question left is, which of these tools are you going to master first? Pick one, just one, and start practicing with it today. I promise you, you will be well on your way to that Band 9 score.